I cannot believe this project is actually completed. This is something not only I've never seen before, but you've never seen before either. Check out the largest and most complex waterfall in the world. Finally breathe, and I could actually finally enjoy the sight and sounds of a beautiful waterfall the way I tell all of our clients to enjoy it. Sit back, relax, enjoy, soak it all in, all those negative ions, all that feel-good stuff that comes through you just makes you want to relax. And I'm going to start to contemplate, because this has been an incredible journey that started over a year ago when I was contacted by the owner of this magnificent property. They have seen several other water features that I've designed and built over the years via YouTube. Some of my favorite projects. They fell in love with it, contacted me. I made the trip from the Chicagoland area all the way to Southern Africa to visit this absolutely spectacular property. We both had to evaluate each other. They wanted to know if I was a good fit for the project, not just off of the pictures and videos and things that I've created, but also getting to know each other, because this is a long-term relationship. I wanted to get to know them as well for the same exact reason. We had to have some sort of symbiosis in order to work together to pull off a project of this magnitude. And to tell you it has been a huge undertaking is futile, because it's been overwhelming. And now to sit back and relax and enjoy it all, it's just insane. When I showed up here, this was just bare soil. Some of the buildings were being built around me, but it was basically a bare expanse of soil with a bunch of different trees. I came in and I talked to the landscaper. I said, we have to remove all the trees. Not only that, we have to remove a lot of the services, the utilities and things that were already installed through that area, because the water feature that they originally brought me in for was a small sliver of water. And I said, if I'm coming here, we're going to create something that the world has never seen, and this is just a small piece of it. This actually makes it look like it's part of a massive natural system, because this is falling into an actual lake system where all types of animals through the surrounding savannas come on a daily basis to drink the refreshing water of this very arid area. This waterfall is helping to increase the dissolved oxygen, creating a better environment for all the animals here, but it's also selling the feature, in my opinion. As you come driving through the property, you're going to stop at this beautiful overlook. You're going to see this waterfall coming into this natural lake, and you can tell that it starts way above me, and that's the key. We don't want to see the origin of the water, and we don't want to see the destination of the water. This goes into this massive lake, and it overflows into a river system that eventually will go all the way to the Atlantic Ocean. It rarely makes it there, because this is a hot, dry desert type area. So most of the water, unless it's a torrential downpours, which we've actually had, we've been stuck on the side of the road. I almost lost the rover that I was driving, going through a river that actually almost swept us away. We made it out, obviously. We're here. We made it out, but it can be very treacherous, something that I have never experienced before. And that actually sums up everything, because this is something not only I've never seen before, but you've never seen before either. take you on a little journey. So it's just sitting adjacent to this beautiful little riverine system that we created over on this side. This boardwalk has just recently been completed, and I'm talking days. What I tried to do from a design standpoint, I wanted to change everybody's experience. Most of the driving that's done via the golf carts, you're going over a brick, like a cobblestone, granite cobblestone. I wanted to change it to these wooden old railroad sleepers because the sight and the sound is going to be completely different. It's going to force you to slow down. And that's the whole purpose. I want people to slow down. Instead of driving very quickly, you're going to hit these areas. The sound is going to be different. You're going to think it's a old railroad bridge crossing or something like that. So that was kind of the goal with this. The other thing that it helped do was to disguise the discharge point of the waterfall that goes into this natural watering hole. So now you see water being discharged underneath. You just hear that beautiful deep sound of water rushing underneath. Then on this side, we actually have our waterfall coming out of our negative edge. So this is a 50,000 gallon underground reservoir. Just mammoth. 50,000 gallon underground reservoir. Just gigantic system that we actually buried. We had this massive excavation that was opened up. We put in 1,600 of our large aqua blocks. Then on top of that, we had to come in and place these massive stones that are weighing upwards of 20 tons. We're then covering it with many cubic yards of soil to make it disappear. So all of this water recirculates down through that. The reason we did this large reservoir was because of the intense heat that is found here in southern Africa. So that reservoir goes down 6.5 to 7 feet below this water level. So that water is going to be much cooler. The water is also going to be kept in the dark. So we're going to limit the process of photosynthesis, and by doing that, it's going to give us better water quality. So the water is going to be cooler, the water is going to be in the dark, so that's going to be beneficial to us. The other thing that it does, acts as a pre-filter. It's going to remove sediments and solids through the process of precipitation. But what I love about this design is this negative edge that is coming off of this incredible, I mean, just look at that beautiful, deep water pool. This is like a riverine system. We have waterfalls coming in from all over the place. We have 180,000 gallons of water every hour being recirculated through this system. We have underwater jets to keep sediments in suspension. We have a wetland filter to detoxify the water, and then we have our massive main waterfall cascade, which is absolutely breathtaking. All of that water comes over a 10-foot wide spillway. That water's thick. I mean, I'm talking it's 2.5 to 3 inches thick of water just coming down, reoxygenating the water, which is key because this water is going to go to our wetland filtration system. And this is what I loved about this design is the water disappears on one side, looks like it goes under this bridge, and then it pops out over on that side. These water levels are actually exactly synchronized. So it will pick up audibly as well as visibly to sell the feature. The main pond, this captures everybody's attention clearly. This is right off this beautiful terrace on the side of the home and in between the guest house. This is for the owner to have his own little hidden oasis. He could sit back, he could read, he could have a cup of coffee, he could just enjoy the day. The sight and sound of the waterfall behind me is absolutely beautiful. Some of the challenges that we had here was the construction. This is the very first trip that I was here back in September, end of August, early September, and we are chipping through bedrock, and I'm like, oh no. This is going to be a nightmare on this project because we literally just started and here we are, we're hitting granite. So we have a big excavator. We have a Caterpillar 345. That's a big excavator. Just before we got our 352, so it's still sizable, massive machine, and he is struggling, just raking through all that stuff. We had to come out with jackhammers actually to break up that stone in order to install this feature. Now, once I understood all of that, and I kind of knew that, I was planning for the worst, obviously. Anytime I'm doing a project on an international scale, I want to make sure that I have everything covered. So I came in with a layer of sand on the bottom, heavy-duty geotextile, heavy-duty rubber membrane, another layer of the geotextile, and then a concrete canvas on top of that. That concrete canvas does multiple things. Obviously, it's going to be a beautiful protection for the big boulders. This was the actual second largest rock I've ever set. I've since destroyed that, that record multiple times on this project, but up until now, the largest rock I've ever placed was at our office, Aqualand, our beautiful, wonderful, incredible headquarters outside of Chicago, Illinois, St. Charles, Illinois, actually, the water garden capital of the world. And that giant waterfall, 47,000 pound rock, came on one semi-truck. That record started back in 2008. It is now 2025. So almost 20 years it took me to break that record. And then, like I said, on this project, I broke it multiple times. But the big rock right behind me to the left of that waterfall is 66,000 pounds. So that was 33 tons. That was a big jump. So I was starting to get really excited once I knew we had the capacity to bring in those big boulders. Once I was talking with the crane operator, he said, if you want bigger, we got bigger. I'll bring in a bigger crane. I could bring in the biggest crane actually in the country. We're gonna bring it in from the coast. So now all of a sudden I'm like, all right, we gotta go find another rock spot. I'm gonna hop back in the helicopter. Thankfully, the owner was great and he allowed me to utilize his helicopter, and we would go into the surrounding mountainside. I would look from the air and I would seek out massive stones, but they had to have the right access. We had to cut roads to get to them. They have to be lower in elevation. You can't bring a big excavator and crane up to the top, so it had to be lower elevation, somewhat accessible. Also had to be the right density. We don't want to put in, there's a lot of rock on this property that is somewhat fragile and it's very fractured because of the intense heat that's here, as well as mineral compositions, etc. You have to be a little bit of a geologist in order to be a good pond builder. So I want to come in, I actually brought a rock hammer with me and I'm testing rocks, I'm banging on stuff. Some of them are flaking away, others are rock hard. That's the stuff that we want to work with. We want to work with a solid, durable material because this project is going to last for decades. So what I love about this pond feature, that beautiful deck overhang, we're going to be stocking it with some incredible fish. Not yet, unfortunately. I wish I had the fish, but we have to do everything in steps. So this is over 5 feet deep. It's a beautiful plunge pool. It's a recreational pond designed to immerse yourself in the water. And in fact, when you go into a recreational pond, it actually makes the water quality better because you're stirring and agitating everything. And then it can be managed in that 50,000 gallon underground reservoir. From there, it goes up to our wetland filter. So this entire system is very systematic. You've seen me design and build tiny little features. I mean, I'm talking tiny little tanks for aquarium info for her little axolotls. The same exact processes that I use for that, I'm using on this. It's the concept of fractals, expanding and contracting geometries. So once I understand the basis and once I understand the design and the volume of water, I could easily start to calculate the number of tons of rock that I need. I could start to put together the different layers of geotextiles and liners, the pumping system, the size of the pipe, everything starts falling into place. The amount of aqua blocks, the amount of flow going through our wetland filter, you name it, I have a calculation that I've created for it because I've been doing this for 33 years. There is no way I would have been able to pull off a project of this magnitude and complexity even 5 years ago. You have to work in steps. Starting out with those small ones, really mastering and understanding the design philosophies, understanding how the interaction of all the rocks, how they work together, as well as once you add flowing water going over that, and the interaction of the plants and the riparian habitats and all the different stuff that is living and breathing inside of the system. We are creating a living microcosm of life. But you have to start small, and once you start small and start to comprehend it and understand it, you can start blowing stuff out and you can create things that are unbelievable. So I'm standing at the base level of the massive stream system. So this is the final plunge pool, little recirculating area before it drops into the main pond. This was a critical little detail. You don't think about all these different things. We have that incredible Reclanata palm in front of it. that splits the water. We have the water cascading around that actually spreads out the size and the scale of the actual waterfall. It makes it appear much more dramatic as well as much more natural. We have the beautiful sheet waterfall on one side and then a series of cascades on the other, both of them bringing different types of sounds. This waterfall above is not even visible from the main house, but the incredible guest house right adjacent to us, they have their own private view of this waterfall. I wanted to position it at a specific angle so they could see it from the terrace. The idea behind it, not only just the subtle sight of it, but that sound just fills the entire space and it draws you out away from the home. That's the key to a successful design, in my opinion. I love sitting back and relaxing, don't get me wrong, but I want people to get out and explore this water feature. And I tell you what, there is not one person in the world that cannot resist stopping and viewing a beautiful water feature as you're crossing a bridge, as you hear a waterfall. People flock to the mountains and the coast just to enjoy something like this, and this is in a private backyard. One of my favorite design elements for any water feature I'm building is the stream system. In my opinion, we call ourselves the pond guys, but we're actually the stream guys. And that's because we always have a flow. We have a discharge point where the water actually starts. The water flows through everything, including the pond, goes into a pre-filter, a negative edge, an intake base, something along those lines. We constantly have that flow going through. The reason being is very, very simple. Flowing water is going to have higher water quality. I mean, just look at this riverine system. And this is no shallow water system. This is not just a riffle zone. This is a deep water stream where we have thick currents going through everything. We have massive flows, 120,000 GPH of water flowing through this system. These deep water pools, if you're a fisherman, this is the type of stuff you look for. You have these tight little choking points. Look at the water velocity right in front of me here. You could see we have some cobblestones and these big flanking rocks, and then that water just blasts its way through and it hits another rock and it bounces itself off. One of my favorite things to do is mimic those shapes and get that water moving all over the place, because those processes keep all the sediments and all that stuff moving in suspension. It's also creating little micro habitats for all the different types of aquatic insects as well as fish and other animals that are going to live in this system. I love replicating nature. I love going out and into the woods and finding little riverine systems, and this is where I'm going to spend my time, hiking and walking up and down the riparian zones, which are loaded with life. If you're not familiar with that term, a riparian habitat is the area where the water meets the land. It is biologically the most diverse habitat on planet Earth. Everything has to come to water. Everything. If you're here in Southern Africa, if you're outside of Chicago, Illinois, all the animals need to drink. Birds, pollinators, small mammals, large mammals, you name it. Here in Africa, when I say large mammals, I'm talking monstrous. I'm talking elephants, full-grown elephants and lions and everything under the sun in this amazing place is going to come to these cool, refreshing waters. And I love to replicate these things because of the shoreline. A giant pond is fantastic, don't get me wrong, but a riverine system like this has a lot of shoreline, and that shoreline is the interest, in my opinion. We could have bridge crossings, we could have these beautiful rock peninsulas, we could load the perimeters with different types of vegetation, terrestrial as well as aquatic. We can create a series of cascades and waterfalls that are going to change constantly the sounds in the space. These little waterfalls that are behind me are important not only for the function, but as well as the aesthetics of this feature. Our clients spend a lot of money for us to come out and design and build them. So we want to understand every little detail. This small bridge is going to lead to this beautiful custom-made pergola, which is going to be the ideal place for any of the guests and visitors coming to this amazing property to sit back and to relax and view all of this water. We're also going to stock it with different types of native fish. So this is going to be a full-blown African river system. So we're going to have some amazing species. I don't even want to tell you all about them right now because we're still finalizing those details. But I tell you what, this is going to be an underwater paradise when it's complete. And this is just the start. It gets better and better as we go upstream. Cannot believe this project is actually completed. This view, I remember standing in this exact spot a year ago, looking at just bare soil. maybe a few trees coming in there, but it was basically bare soil and flat. I took a piece of 2x4, I put a cross member and I painted it red, and I pounded it into the ground where the actual waterfall behind me, the main one, all the way at the top, pounded that in the ground. I set an elevation. I said, that's where that waterfall is gonna start. Behind that waterfall is gonna be an incredible cenote. There's gonna be a ton of work. There's gonna be hours and hours and hours of planning and logistical challenges to overcome to pull this off, but the time is complete. I love the look of this waterfall. It is absolutely spectacular, not just the main waterfall, but the many different layers. That's important for the design. There's nothing I like more than designing and building stream systems and waterfalls. One of my tricks that I use, very, very simple. I have this lower waterfall right behind me, very, very wide, not very tall. That's gonna set a perspective. You could actually see it. This is only 30 feet behind me. So I could see the scale. I could understand the scale of these boulders that we brought in. Massive rocks to create that cliff face. So it looks like that water has carved itself through a riverine system, exactly like you're gonna find in these surrounding mountains. Once we set the scale with that large, wide waterfall, as I go further and further upstream, I want my waterfalls to look like they get skinnier and taller. That replicates nature because at those higher elevations, the water is going to cascade off of cliff faces. And then as it comes down into lower elevations, the elevations change and all that rock has crumbled and fallen over the many, many millennia of that natural process of breaking down the stone. The entire process of breaking down the rock and actually turning it into soil and minerals and all that stuff, but it's a gigantic geological process. Mountains don't want to stand high. Gravity wants to take over, water wants to break them apart. The intense heat wants to fracture these rocks. And as that does, that higher elevation, all that stuff tumbles downstream and it creates these alluvial areas. And once you get water flowing through it, that's what creates these incredible waterfalls. Only way to pull it off, keeping everything in scale, the monstrous boulders, bringing in thousands of cubic yards of soil to create a mountain. Literally a mountain that has its own driving track, not a walking path. We're talking you could take a four-wheel drive vehicle all the way to the top of the waterfall and make its way back down. This is an interactive water feature that you have never seen. So I am standing on a filter system. Underneath me is a constructed wetland filter. This technology I actually read about 30 plus years ago when I was in the university. I had an incredible teacher that described wetlands as the kidneys of the earth. If you're familiar with our kidneys, they filter toxins out of our bloodstream. Wetlands, therefore, filter toxins out of the lifeblood of planet Earth, which is water. I have taken this to the next level. I was one of the main developers of our patented wetland filtration system, understanding the water dynamics and how the water gets distributed through the patented snorkel and centipede system. High velocity water comes in, sedimentation processes occur. The water then goes up through our aqua blocks for further sedimentation. The reason that's important, the nitrifying bacteria that live inside of this filter. No one would ever know this is a filter. You're gonna think this is a giant riverbed that's actually spectacular in the middle of a spring or in the middle of a beautiful riparian zone. But this actually goes down from where I'm standing over 6 feet deep. Massive excavation, thousands of tons of material going on top of this to create a home for all the different microorganisms. These little animals, this biofilm that is growing on top of the rock and gravel is critical for life on planet Earth. They cycle nutrients and they make them usable for everything else up the food chain. So these animals are actually responsible for the start of that process. Not only do they break down those materials, but then they're going to move it through the system. Other animals are going to eat those nitrifying bacteria. The small zooplankton are going to feed on them, and then they are going to be fed upon by the small aquatic insects. I've already seen water boatmen, water striders, and really cool water scorpions in this feature, and it's barely been operational. And that's because as soon as you add water to any environment, life is going to arrive, but it has to be healthy water. We have to understand the flowing dynamics and how that water is going to be distributed in order to pull it off right. This is a modular system. This modular system, I can cut and paste and chop it up into different configurations to handle any type of a waste product. Everything, any type of organic compound, when it breaks down, is going to release nitrogen. If it does that out of balance, it's a eutrophication process. That's actually responsible for dead zones around the world. The Gulf of Mexico, Chesapeake Bay, you name it, there are dead zones around the world because of excess nitrogen and phosphorus going into the water, which is causing giant algae blooms, and it's suffocating out the natural systems that are inside of those aquatic ecosystems. This system can handle that. It can break it down. I have designed and built these for zoological institutions, for public parks and aquariums, as well as stormwater management at botanical gardens. The results that we get from this are incredible. But you have to understand the flow dynamics in order to pull it off. Once you understand it on a small scale, you could ramp it up. I've already talked to you about fractals, expanding and contracting geometries, and it doesn't get any better than a wetland filtration system. Water flow rate, sedimentation zones, different layers of rock and gravel, and then we add in a specially designed mixture of nitrifying bacteria as well as facultative bacteria that are going to break down and cycle all those nutrients to make it usable by all the amazing animals found throughout Southern Africa. Anytime I have the opportunity to create a waterfall as the outfall of my wetland filter, I'm going to take advantage of it for several reasons. One, who doesn't like a waterfall? I mean, they're absolutely spectacular. The sight and the sound, the water movement, the oxygenation. I mean, that plunge pool down at the bottom where that water just rolls itself around, infuses the water with dissolved oxygen. That's critical for the health of this ecosystem. The wetland filter that's behind me is home to all those microorganisms that I was talking about. There's a battle that actually happens inside between all those microorganisms. They are all aerobic. It's a highly aerobic process. So the more they consume inside of it, the more detritus and nitrogenous compounds that they consume, the more oxygen they pull out of the water. It's a perfect correlation. So what I want to do is I want to put the oxygen back, and the best way to do it is through a waterfall. That cascading water, as it tumbles from pool to pool, circulates and makes that water roil on top of itself, creating that whitewater action. That I know is doing the job, and all the fish in this system are going to thank us for it. So this one-of-a-kind creation has taken months of preparation, planning, logistical challenges that you have never seen before. But the end result is absolutely spectacular. I don't get excited too much anymore because I've been doing this will be my 33rd year of water feature construction. So it takes a lot for me to say, wow. And you know what? I am saying wow, because just look at all of the different layers. So it starts out down here at this lower section. This is our constructed wetland filter. What I love about it is we have these big, wide, flat stones that are just gently sloping down into this wide section of pool. This is going to get loaded with different types of fish that are going to be living in this little ecosystem. But let me get back to this waterfall. We have all of this water coming through. We have water coming up from the bottom of the wetland, as well as that massive cascade up on the top. We have multiple pumps operating this. The reason being is we wanted to be able to separate things out. That increased the complexity of everything. And then on top of all of that, we have that amazing cenote. So that concrete structure with that massive dome, we had to make it disappear. So this was a huge, huge challenge. And the only way to pull it off was to come in with massive dinosaur-sized rocks. I mean, we're talking from the Jurassic Park era, massive chunks of granite that we actually harvested from the surrounding mountainsides were critical to pull this project off. We stood them up actually exactly how they were in nature. I went out and I found this with our guide. We found it by helicopter first, and then we did a drive-by as well to actually see these. These are matching stones. Those actually came, there's like 4 or 5 of them. They were all stacked together. It was a massive piece of monolithic granite, and it started to crack and get fissures in it. We actually used those same pieces directly next to each other. So you could tell they were meant to be next to each other because they literally were formed underground hundreds of thousands of years ago in this incredible area of Southern Africa. What we had to do is carefully come in and extract those stones. The only way I could pull off a project of this magnitude in this area is because we didn't have to drive on roadways. We made our own roads to get up into the mountainsides. that our private road had to come in, and we had to bring in massive cranes, 500-ton cranes. We had to come in with earth-moving equipment to actually cut the roads and create the staging area where we could actually pull these rocks out carefully, strap them up, chain them, put them on the trucks, and bring them here to the job site. These trucks and equipment were indispensable on this project, along with the incredible team of people that are very, very safe at working with stones that weigh 200,000 pounds. Just this one section. We have thousands of tons of rock right here. Thousands in this upper pool section, not including this incredible massive mountain system that we created. That's the only way we could pull it off. And down here at the bottom, we have a plunge pool. That pool is 2 meters deep, or approximately 6.5 feet. And we made that as a plunge pool. And I tell you what, when you're looking from above, you look down into that crystalline water and you feel like you're up in a hidden mountain oasis somewhere. And that was our entire goal with the entire construction of this. The only way to pull off a waterfall of this magnitude and scale is to literally build a mountain. That cenote system underneath, but then we had to bring in thousands of cubic yards, thousands and thousands of cubic yards of soil to make it disappear. And I didn't want just a mound. We had to create layers and levels, all these little complex interactions of roadways and bridges and drive paths going up with the side-by-side in order to actually pull it off. And then to top it all off, we have those beautiful, and I mean spectacular, moringa trees that actually came from the surrounding mountainside. Those are found in craggy areas, high elevations, and that's exactly what we did. We wanted to recreate nature, and nature in this area is just awe-inspiring. Every time I drive to and from the job site, I am just blown away by the natural beauty, the animals that we see driving back and forth. It just takes your breath away. The beautiful sunrises and sunsets, it actually speaks to you. So our passion for designing and building water feature runs deep, and I love mimicking nature on every single level possible. And given a palette like this and a customer that has given us the artistic freedom to express that has just been an incredible, unbelievable experience. This may be one of my favorite parts of this amazing project, and that's hard to say because we have incredible waterfalls and wetlands and giant boulders that we're placing. But this cool little canyon I've been thinking and dreaming about since I started doing the design process here. I wanted a hidden walkway like you're going through a slot canyon somewhere, and the boulders just get bigger and bigger and bigger as you go deeper and deeper into the heart of the mountain. And when I say heart of the mountain, I literally mean the heart of a mountain. There is a cenote underneath me. Not right here, actually back that way a little bit. Directly underneath me is a hidden passageway. That passageway is loaded with mammoth boulders that we set months ago inside this concrete foundation. But the thought process that I had from the very, very beginning still sticks today with all of these boulders. I wanted to recreate that mountainous atmosphere. And when you look at the surrounding mountainsides, there is order to the chaos. If you take the time to look and understand the geology and how these things are formed, you will see very dramatic ridge lines that will be bisecting their way through the mountainside. I set that stage on the very, very first day when we set the first rock. I wanted to have a line that was repeated throughout the entire process, and they were going to get bigger. They're going to stagger themselves, but that line is going to be the same. And you could see that definitely from the drone footage from above, where we actually can see these massive boulders and how they're positioned, because that's the only way you're really going to sell it. If I was to design this and just take a ring of rocks around it, it would look good. It wouldn't look the same. I wanted to recreate this by having these boulders that were positioned specifically to allow people to access, but also kept within that ridge line. The scale of these boulders was also critical. These things are monstrous. These are not 100 tons. These are 70 to 80 tons. Still giant. I mean, we're talking giant boulders that were extracted from the mountainside. And then we carefully layered in different pockets for plantings. This is incredibly important. These palm trees that we have gracing the sides, these are found along some of these dry areas in these riparian zones. These incredible cobus trees, unreal. I've never seen anything like it. These are otherworldly trees. It's actually more of a succulent. There's literally no root system. You take this out of the ground, it's just growing in between the crevices of rock and boulders up in these nutrient poor areas of the surrounding mountainside. Very dry, not a lot of nutrition at all. And these things continue to photosynthesize. And I just love understanding, and it just blows your mind, the power of nature and how these amazing plants could actually survive the incredibly harsh conditions of this area. I mean, it is harsh, it is hot, it is dry, it's windy. They get some deluges of rain and they get heavy winds and they get frost. We're at over 5,000 feet of elevation here. So this is a high desert area, very hot, very dry. So we had to try to think to mimic that type of a zone. But this little canyon, just like any type of riparian zone, is gonna be more lush. It's gonna be cooler because it's gonna be more shaded and sheltered. If you were to stand back and look at this from a distance, it actually looks like it could be a waterfall. I used the same construction philosophies and technology that I used to actually build waterfalls and streams. So I was recreating this riverine zone so it would actually look like these mountain passes, because during heavy rains, potentially you will get water that's eroding its way through these crevasses and it's exposing all of that rock work. And as it does, it washes all types of boulders and alluvial materials downstream further and further, which creates those rich alluvial plains, which is exactly what we've created here. And I know I'm kind of running around with all different types of things, but you have that high mountainous area, we get lower and lower and lower, and the nutrition in the soil, the biological activity, the nutrient density actually increases as you get further down, because all of this stuff washes and works its way downstream. Up on top, nutrient poor. The moringas, the cobus trees that are found at the very, very mountaintops. This is what we're trying to recreate. I am blown away by our team. I am blown away by the certified contractors that came in from around the world to support me in on this quest to create something that the world has never seen before. The subcontractors here on site were phenomenal. Electricians and carpenters and plumbers and irrigation and gardeners and crane guys, heavy equipment guys, all of them. Just an unbelievable, and that was truly the only way we could pull off a project of this magnitude on the other side of the world. Now you're in for a treat. Unfortunately, pictures, video, it's not going to do it justice. I've already tried. As you go in, you are going to be transformed into a different world. So I want to go down, I want to show you the entire process coming through that winding walkway, terminating in that cenote and those beautiful cascading waterfalls. So here is the journey. We have a small crushed stone path. This is actually going to get amended a little bit more, but it will suffice for right now. We have all of these incredible giant boulders that have been hand-picked from the mountainside, tucking in little bits of vegetation. It's going to get more and more lush as we work our way in. Those cobus trees, these massive palms, the moringas, absolutely spectacular. Love every single one of them. And then we have the entry to the cave itself. Giant piece of granite above, very, very hard and dense. We locked it in place and we actually mortared it directly to the concrete structure, tucking in a rubber tree and then a ficus over here that are going to be creeping their way up through this hill, through the roof. Inside of here, I mean, you cannot experience. It was just 85 degrees and very dry outside. I step inside of here, the temperature drops dramatically. The vegetation, the water, the moisture in the atmosphere is just incredible. This is supposed to be a hidden pathway. We are adding lights in here. They're not set up right now. So we have these green walls going everywhere. Giant boulders flanking. I wanted to make you twist and turn. You could never see the final destination. Little window over here showing some plants, some more of those rubber trees. We have some stalactites that were created to hang down from the roof. I could hear a waterfall. I hope you could hear it as well. The first rock I set, I think, was that one way over there. And then I worked my way systematically around with a plan to actually have those same dividing lines that I talked about earlier. So the same striations of rock are following through inside the cenote where no one can really see them. But again, it's very subliminal. I love all the different plants. Once these are all irrigated and growing, they are going to continue to get better and better and better. And just look at all these little details, the mosses, and there's actually one of the lights. the beautiful logs. Look at the sunlight streaming in from above. We got some orchids in here. Actually, the owner loves orchids. Check out this amazing view. We have a tree growing through the roof, which is actually what makes it a cenote versus a cave. The roof has collapsed. And then at the base of that, as it collapsed in, it has been filling up with rainwater. That's how they normally would form. But here we have recirculated water. You can see it actually being discharged in the corner. I actually have a massive waterfall. Not only the waterfall, but we have little emitters of water that are dripping water down in strategic areas, keeping all that moss alive. We have all that vegetation, the beautiful ferns going across. And then we have the universal rock panels. Love working with the universal rock. We would not have been able to pull off a project of this complexity without actually utilizing them. That concrete structure has disappeared. Long time ago. We have the green wall living panels over on the side that are allowing us to have all that lush vegetation. And down here in the bottom, we have cascading soil pockets with these tree ferns and rubber trees. We have some azuga here in the foreground that's just gonna creep its way across everything. So it's just unbelievable. Every time I walk inside of here, I am just blown away. And then look at the water quality and clarity. I did not go swimming in here, but Sean, Jay, and April actually did, and they said it was incredible. That's about 4.5 feet deep. We are open above. Winter has hit, so some of these leaves have fallen off of this tree, but inside of here, it's a microclimate. We have the lush vegetation and everything inside of here. This becomes a heat sink. So this actually stays at an even temperature year round, which is exactly what you're gonna find in these tropical locations. And then we have a discharge of water coming in here to make sure we have the proper circulation going through this pool. Overflows directly back into our wetland filter. And then we have that viewing window, that doorway. It's not even a window. You can actually walk your way out of that door, which I'm gonna have to do right here today. But you'd see that water cascading down, the beautiful sights and sounds. And when that other waterfall is on, it is loud inside of here. A few other details that I want to point out. These will change dramatically. We have large planting pockets built into the top. All of that vegetation will eventually cascade itself down from those pockets. We have 4 of those in different strategic locations, so the viewing area will become more and more lush. We've also planted up on the very top some jasmine. Those are gonna cascade down, and we're gonna have vines and everything coming down. Rubber trees will continue to grow. A lot of these other species of plants are climbers as well. So some of the small ficuses are just gonna cling to that rock surface, and they're gonna crawl their way up. And this is gonna look unbelievable. In 3 years from now, it's gonna be a completely different world. And I cannot wait to add the fish in here just to show you all of these little details. It's just been a treat. The scale of this is difficult to comprehend. That steel dome structure that was a work of art has completely disappeared. Above us is many tons of rock, gravel, soil, and plants, and massive trees directly on top of us. From an engineering standpoint, it is incredible. From an artistic standpoint, it is incredible. From a logistical standpoint, it is incredible. I just can't even describe it all to you, and this is the culmination of months and months of work. Every detail of this project, from the very start of the waterfall down by the lake, the beautiful pond adjacent to the terraces, that deep riverine system, the massive wetland filter with the cascading waterfalls, and then the cherry on top is that gigantic waterfall that cascades from the top of the mountain. Now we are in the heart of this entire water feature. To say it's been a success is an understatement. Could not be happier. I am my own toughest critic. I've been doing this for 33 years. I am not wowed by many things, but as of right now, I am literally speechless.